Dear friends, please write you in the comments what you think about this story. And if something unusual and mystical has happened to you too, you can write us about it. I've heard various strange and frightening stories about the sea many times. However, what happened to us on the schooner, I still can't find an explanation for. In the late 90s, fate, the mischievous one, led me, a young and single athlete with 2 higher education degrees, to the sun-drenched shores of Greece. I went there hoping to earn some money through seasonal work picking olives. That's how I ended up on the island of Crete, in one of the picturesque mountain villages between the cities of Heraklion and Rethymno. Rainbow-colored dreams quickly dissipated. The work under the hot sun was tough. The olive harvest quotas seemed insurmountable, and the final salary was disproportionate to the effort and time spent. One late Saturday evening, I sat in a small coastal tavern with a misted carafe of retsina, the local white wine. A cheerful and friendly man with a thick beard joined me at my table. He introduced himself as Petros. We started talking, and upon learning that I was from Russia, he listened to the story of my challenging life situation. Thoughtfully scratching his chin, he offered me a job. Petros turned out to be the captain of a tiny fishing schooner, and he needed a deckhand. On Sunday, I had to run a bit to negotiate with the olive farm management and get my settlement. And so, on Monday morning, I inhaled the intoxicating sea scents, standing on the dock of one of the fishing harbors where we had arranged to meet. Petros was as punctual as a clock. About 15 minutes before the agreed time, the sound of a motor could be heard in the distance. From around the rocky cape appeared a red and white, almost toy, like schooner, where I was to spend the remaining weeks. Soon, Petros, skillfully moored, was introducing me to his first mate and assistant, Manos. After that, together, they briefed me on my duties on the ship. They turned out to be straightforward. The little boat went to sea, twice a day, to pull up nets and trawl the entire spectrum of Mediterranean marine life, which then ended up on the tables of tourists. 2 weeks flew by unnoticed. I enjoyed everything. New friends, the sea, the sun, and the knot. 2 difficult, interesting work. I was already starting to count the remaining days with regret and think about the upcoming return home. But a mysterious and unexplainable event, as often happens, abruptly changed the peaceful course of life. One autumn evening, as usual, we went to the sea for the evening setting of nets. After completing the task, we went to one of the villages to visit Petros's friend. He promised to get some spare parts for the navigation equipment and the old diesel engine. The meeting with friends was very warm. After a hearty dinner and heartfelt conversations, we stayed well past midnight. When we headed back, Petros decided that we could spend the night on the schooner in the area where we had set the nets to pull up the catch at dawn and head to our harbor. The navigator showed that we had reached the right spot. The anchor chain cheerfully clanked, and Petros silenced the diesel engine. Lights out. Manos and I settled in the bow of the boat on either side of the winch, and the captain tried to make himself comfortable in the cabin. After a few minutes of gazing at the endless starry sky, I drifted into a peaceful, deep sleep. I woke up for an unpleasant reason, abruptly, as if jolted. Immediately, I felt a sense of unexplainable, animalistic terror that took my breath away. It intensified as the surroundings were enveloped in a sticky, impenetrable darkness. It was so dense that, in the first moments, It seemed as if I had gone blind. Only by bringing my trembling palm almost to my eyes could I discern its outlines. I struggled to get up, but it was futile. My body was filled with leaden heaviness, and I could only weakly move my limbs. Several times, I tried to call out to Manos, who was sleeping 2 meters away from me, and realized that I could barely whisper. The unexplainable horror inside me intensified. The wooden deck beneath me began to rhythmically shake, as if under slow, heavy footsteps. A massive, shapeless figure, just slightly brighter than the surrounding impenetrable darkness, suddenly loomed on the stern, to the left of the cabin. The door creaked ominously. For a few moments, on the captain's bridge, there were muffled sounds of struggle. When everything fell silent, 2 dimly glowing eyes stared at me through the cabin window. Overwhelmed by terror, I lost consciousness. Waking up in the morning, Manos and I couldn't find Petros in the cabin. Briefly discussing the night's events, we realized that we saw and felt roughly the same thing, and it wasn't a nightmare. In silence, we pulled up the nets and hurried to the shore. By the way, both outside and inside the cabin, there were several dents, as if from impacts, with something heavy, but nothing in the equipment was damaged. Quickly mooring, we rushed to Petros's home, where his bewildered wife greeted us. She told us that he had taken a day off yesterday and had no plans to go out to sea. Soon, the homeowner himself descended to meet us, which seemed unlikely. Always cheerful and lively, Petros looked subdued and distracted. He didn't recognize me, interacting with me as if with a stranger. Something held me back from further inquiries. Without even asking about payment for the last 2 days, I retrieved my belongings from the schooner and warmly bid farewell to Manos. Impressions overwhelmed me, and a decent sum, by our standards, pleasantly weighed down my pocket. What happened to us? A result of the imaginative impact of an anomalous zone, or a real encounter with a mysterious being that did something to our captain? Perhaps it even took possession of his body? I still don't know.